Welcome back to another edition of the Scarlet and Gray Report podcast. My name is Colin Gay, and I cover Ohio State for the Scarlet and Gray Report in the Rivals Network. And I and our recruiting reporter Zach Carpenter spent the morning with Ohio State's assistant coaches. We got them in a roundtable, asked them, got more than 30 minutes with each. It was a great time. Got a lot of info for you, and then that is coming soon. But I kind of just wanted to get my 5 quick thoughts here, just to get them out there and get it to you lovely people. First one I'm going to start with is something that we kind of knew was coming, but it was unfortunate nevertheless. And we got Ryan Day for 10 minutes this morning as well. Confirmed that, first of all, Marcus Crowley, the running back, has medically redshirted. He's medically retired from Ohio State. He will not see the field next year, but he will still be a part of the program. He will still find his or achieve his degree with the scholarship that he does have, but he is medically retired, kind of in a similar spot to where Harry Miller was when he medically retired earlier it was in March, I believe. Running back room doesn't really change all that much. It's kind of what Ohio State kind of expected, with Travion Henderson leading the room, Mayan Williams, Evan Pryor as 2A, 2B there, and then coming in from the rear, Caden Saunders, who led Ohio State in carries at the spring game and yards, I believe. So nothing really surprising there. We kind of knew that was coming there. And very, very unfortunate. Marcus Crowley couldn't really take away the injury bug. Multiple leg injuries, knee injuries, things of that nature. Couldn't really get it going at Ohio State. Mitchell Melton, Ryan Day also confirmed that the defense linebacker turned defensive end tore his ACL at the spring game, something that we knew it wasn't a good injury. We knew it was going to be long-term, but it was made official. He will miss the 2022 season, which is a bit more impactful for Ohio State's defense in terms of depth. Melton moved from a very, very crowded linebacker room to a room, a defensive end room, and specifically he was being looked at the jack position, so that linebacker and defensive end hybrid, going on in coverage, doing whatever Jim Knowles needs him to do. And you saw him a lot. I remember going to the coaches clinic, going to Perry Eliano's session on 1 high and 2 high safeties. And he was showing a lot of Ohio State film. So as I do, I was looking to see what kind of formations and who was being used in certain spots. And a lot of the film that he showed in that session was with Mitchell Melton, even though we've been told and we saw in the spring game that it's going to be a lot of Jack Sawyer at the position. But now with no Mitchell Melton, you're going to see probably Zach Harrison there, Javonte Jean-Baptiste there, Caden Curry there, who Knowles talked very, very highly about this morning. But another piece of depth gone for Ohio State's defense at a position that's going to be very, very impactful. If not impactful, it's going to have a lot of eyes on it. So even more pressure for Jack Sawyer and the guys behind him, especially a lot of defensive ends there now without kind of that linebacker moving to defensive end. So it'll be interesting to see, but not good news on the injury front for Ohio State for 2 guys. Other than that, let's go into point number 2, Jim Knowles. And there's not a lot here. I already wrote about this. There's not a lot here that we didn't already know. And it's more, instead of kind of, he was rehashing what his defense was, kind of who's been stepping up. The name Tommy Eichenberg came out of his mouth a lot more on him later, along with Caden Curry, Kai Stokes, Zach Harrison, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. Like all these guys, I mean, he talked very, very highly of watching the film, but that is not what my main takeaway was from Jim Knowles. If you read my story that was posted just probably an hour ago or so, it was a defensive coordinator that was extremely confident. There was no longer any hypotheticals in terms of what the defense could be. Instead, it's what it is. Let me read this quote that he said. They were able to they were able to learn that we do a lot of things. He said it's simple, but it looks complex. I think they were able to get to the heart of it and get excited and say, okay, we can show a lot of different looks, but it was easy for them to learn. It can be overwhelming in the beginning because it looks like a lot, but when you get to the nuts and bolts of it, they were able to follow along at a rapid pace. I think now they got a taste of how good the system can work. That's not a defensive coordinator talking about, okay, this is what it could look like, and this is what it looked like at Oklahoma State. This is what it looked like at Duke. No, this is what it looks like at Ohio State. And with that understanding, there was a little bit more of an excitement. There was a little bit more in terms of Jim Knowles talking about his scheme, but in the context of what he's seen from Ohio State film, not Oklahoma State film. And one of the things he made clear was Ohio State is ahead of schedule. It's been a very, very, very aggressive. It accomplished more than he thought they would. I mean, he saw a defense that was open. It was eager to learn. It was showing off. It was a very, very smart group, showing off football intelligence. And it's a room that's getting better. And especially with what Ohio State is coming off of, the defensive performances that ended their season in 2021, especially that Michigan game and that first half against Utah. I mean, this is a very, very, very promising sign for Ohio State that Jim Knowles is coming in and he already sees progress within, like 5 months of being in Columbus, being officially kind of installing his defense. I mean, if Ohio State is already there and they're already at that point where they're fine tuning and developing this game plan for Notre Dame on September 3rd. I mean, that's only exciting for Ohio State's defense and should be kind of a positive, especially with and Jim Knowles made this clear earlier today. But I mean, just it helps so much that he's facing this offense that is, so top, could be one of the best in the country. And definitely projected to be the best in the Big Ten, but could be one of the best in the country. To see them every day is only helping Ohio State at this point. So very, very promising words from Jim Knowles today. And also there was, for my third point, promising words from Tony Alford today about the running back room, even though they're not getting as much attention. And here's why. Let me start with a point that Tony Alford made about his room. He called them as good as anyone's in the country. You see this three-headed monster of Trevion Henderson at the front, kind of that all-purpose, all-purpose, all-producing back that could be a lot for any opposing defense in the Big Ten, whether it's, Michigan, whether it's Penn State, even starting with Notre Dame week 1. But you see this guy who could, I don't know, like he has the potential to do a little bit of everything. He's not as big, but he can run downhill. He's very, very shifty outside. So he's kind of the kind of culmination of everything that he wants of a running back. But it's not only Trevion Henderson, it's Mayan Williams, the human bowling ball. You got Evan Pryor, who can just fake and shift his way in and out of coverage, getting to the second level and putting on his jets for this burst of speed that Ohio State really hasn't had in a long time. They've had, but it's kind of met that expectation of, but that's their third string back. That's a freshman back. So you have all these three guys that can kind of just combine together and create this offensive approach that can be a little bit of everything. For Ohio State, what Tony Alford calls as good as anyone's in the country. However, this is a running game that does not have the attention of those running games that he's comparing Ohio State's to. But I remember when I don't remember who asked this, but somebody asked Tony about kind of the attention that his room is getting in even before he went into his answer, which was eloquent and all of this stuff. I mean, you just saw this smirk on his face, and you heard him say something along the lines of, let's keep it that way. Where all the attention for this Ohio State offense is on CJ Stroud, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., these three that could lead Ohio State to the promised land in terms of an offense. No balance whatsoever. We're turning Ohio State into a Big 12 team where they're just 500, 600 passing yards a game and 30 touchdowns every single time they take the field. No, this is something that is getting the attention, but it's not something that could be reality. And it's something that Tony Alford is fine with, because they're going to make an impact anyway. And I think he sees that. I think Trevion Henderson, who's taking kind of that role as a leader and kind of knows how good he can be, and kind of picking himself up and being that guy for Ohio State, whether it's in the locker room or with his teammates at this point, according to his coaches. Or you have the depth of Mayan Williams and Evan Pryor. There's a lot of potential here, guys. And I think it's easy to forget, just based on what CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith-Njigba could be first round picks, top 5 picks, each of them. I think that people are forgetting what Trevion Henderson can do, what Mayan Williams and Evan Pryor can do together, relieving what Henderson can do. Guys, this offense is going to be special. We know this. They were the best in the country last year. But it's not just because of the passing game. And I think people forget that. And I think Tony Alford wants people to forget that, so that his running backs can make a statement once they get the ball rolling on September 3rd. Number 4, I mentioned Tommy Eichenberg. Not only was he the main name out of the mouth of Jim Knowles, kind of representing this kind of developed, he's kind of the face of what he wants out of a linebacker, what he wants out of a guy in the middle of a changed defense, embracing everything he has, being the smart player, showing off his football IQ, and getting the entire big picture of what this defense can be. Tommy Eichenberg was also mentioned by Mickey Marotti as one of the most improved players that he's seen over the course of this offseason. And if anybody should know, it's Mickey Marotti. The strength and conditioning coach for Ohio State, big, has a lot of weight in terms of, who is impactful, who kind of is the main storyline for for the upcoming season. Mickey Marotti's there every day with them and building them up and training them and working. And he said Tommy Eichenberg is stepping up and being a leader, being a guy who, on to us and to the media and to everybody else around him and watching him, he's kind of this quiet guy and doesn't like to talk very much, but apparently to inside the program, he's vocal and he's working and he's making sure everything is changed and making sure everything is working well to the benefit of the defense as a whole. If he's the face of this defense, I think, especially if it's like what Ohio State saw out of him in the Rose Bowl, so 17 tackles, just was in the middle of every play, playing ferocious in the middle. That's a good start for what this defense could be, and especially with a guy who kind of is in that position of change, because that's Jim Knowles' position. You haven't seen a lot of success from the linebacker spot, especially after last year. What could it be? It could be what Tommy Eichenberg takes them to. And I think that's I don't want to say pressure here, but I think that's something, the expectation that Ohio State has for this linebacker is, okay, who's going to be the face of this defensive change? It could be Tommy Eichenberg. And I'm not going to get off this train either. I think it could be Steel Chambers, but not a lot of Steel Chambers talk today. There's going to be more here in the coming days about Jim Knowles' linebackers and how interchangeable they are, just like the safety position, but we'll get to that later. I'm going to get to number 5. Point number 5, Ryan Day. With all the talk, there's a lot of talk here about NIL and, the transfer portal and things like that. And we'll get into that here soon. But I wanted to focus on, he came off a very, very, very good week as the leader of Ohio State. Watching 2 of his wide receivers go back to back in the first round of the NFL draft. You saw Jamison Williams coming right after Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, a guy that Ohio State recruited and spent his time at Ohio State and then transferred to Alabama for his final season. But the main quote coming out of Ryan Day's press conference today was, it's a good time to be a quarterback and a receiver right now at Ohio State. That's 100% accurate. And when I asked him about, okay, so what is that what it is just the best recruiting pitch that you can make is just watching Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson go through the back-to-back on the NFL draft. And what Ryan Day told me was it's just a testimony of what we've been building since Dwayne Haskins. And really, I think it's super interesting because, as you guys know, that was my last year on the beat before returning this year. And Dwayne Haskins, obviously, you have a guy who's been the center of attention over the course of the past few weeks because of his untimely and unfortunate passing, but you don't really realize the impact that a guy like that made to Ohio State's offense until he's gone. And we're looking back at what his career was like and what that season in 2018 was like with guys like Paris Campbell and Chris Olave and Austin Mack and Johnny Dixon, Terry McLaurin, like all these guys that were able to develop and create this passing offense look that this pro style that could, if it weren't for the college stipulations, they could play on Sundays, and in Ryan Day, he made it clear, and he's made it clear multiple times since Dwayne's death. That's where Ohio State, that was kind of the starting point for Ohio State. That was his second year on the job. That was his kind of first quarterback to kind of mold. JT Barrett was there too. You saw glimpses of that in 2017, but from Dwayne, they kind of just emerged this pro style pass offense where, I mean, it's making Ohio State offensive players look that much more friendly in terms of, okay, yeah, they can make an impact at the next level. They can make an impact. They can be first round picks. Dwayne Haskins was Ohio State's first round quarterback in a long time, followed up by Justin Fields to the Chicago Bears, followed up likely by CJ Stroud, maybe even the first overall pick of the 2023 NFL draft next year. So you just see this process and really basically what Ryan Day told me was, who wouldn't want to play for that? And there's a lot of receivers, there's a lot of quarterbacks that Ohio State has their eye on. Side note, if you're not on the board, get on the board, because our Zach Carpenter just put in a future cast for a certain 2024 quarterback. Go to the board, see who it is. Anyway, I mean, who wouldn't want to play for Ohio State right now? And I think that's a big pitch, is to see Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave go back to back, even especially Chris Olave joining a receiving room that is led by a former Ohio State receiver in Michael Thomas. So Ryan Day's writing this, he's writing this roller coaster. He's at a sky high right now in terms of recruiting, in terms of kind of the testimony of what Ohio State's offense can be and what it will continue to be as it kind of rides this run, and what it plans to continue to be even past CJ Stroud, but with, Kyle McCord, Devin Brown, and whoever's up next for Ohio State. But really, those are the 5 main points. There's going to be so much more coming from these interviews, and so keep an eye on ScarletandGrayReport.com, Ohio State's rival source for all the news, notes, and analysis that you need to know from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and the Schottenstein Center. Stay locked in. Follow me on Twitter at ColinGay_rivals. Follow Zach Carpenter on Twitter at Zach ZACK_Carp. Follow the site on Twitter at OhioST_rivals. We're going to have so much more content for you, and we're still discussing. Join the family, join the board. We're on there 24/7, putting in our thoughts about what's going on with Ohio State, because it's going to get rolling here, folks. It's going to get rolling fast for Ohio State. September 3rd is coming. Stay locked in to what is being built here in Ohio State. It looks like it's going to be something special. So join the family. Let's talk about it. So until then, see you guys on the board, and until next time.